and Happy New Year, YCFT fans, you yellow bellies. I haven't used that one in a little while.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a versus. We're ending the year on a versus.
Yeah.
We are looking at Terrortrain.
Yeah.
Released in 1980 and 2022, earlier this month, back in October. Main reason we picked Terrortrain is there's very few New Year themed horror movies.
Yeah.
So
you can count them on one hand, really.
yeah, so Terrortrain seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Plus, with new Halloween film coming out, so yeah, it makes sense to pick a film with Jamie Lee Curtis in it.
Jamie Lee.
I do have to say that, like, instantly, before we even get into plot, quality, acting, kills, the 1981 has a bit of an edge because it's actually set at New Year.
It is.
Because the film follows a fraternity doing like an end of the year party
On a train.
on a train, all fancy dress.
Yeah.
Which I have questions about.
Yes.
Mainly like, so the party is on the train.
Yes.
What happens when they get to their destination? Do they just come back? Because they're on this train overnight. What happens when they get to their destination?
That's a good point. I can't even remember where the destination is, like exactly how far away it is or anything. Like, presumably it's a long train journey.
Do they go somewhere, party somewhere else and come back? I don't.
Or is like the novelty of the party, oh, it's on a train.
But then surely we just do a big loop.
Yeah.
Or does the train just stop there because something's going on?
Basically, our train party is a big deal, like in the States especially. Like, is this a common thing to rent out a train?
Anyway, back to my initial point.
Yes.
The 2022 remake of it is set at Halloween.
Yes. So one half of this video is relevant.
New Year. Yeah. But I do have to say, I think the plot actually lends itself more so towards the Halloween theme.
Just because of like the fancy dress.
Just because like I know people dress up for New Year sometimes, but it's obviously more common around Halloween. I think the plot just kind of makes more sense that way. So
yeah, definitely some of the.
But that's a change. It's a change that didn't particularly bother me.
No.
Amazingly, these films are very similar.
Very, very similar.
Very, very.
Oh,
I'm just gonna say we like the original film.
Yeah.
In fact, we rewatched it last night. I really like it. But
Preferred it second time actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It's got a lot of problems. The new one has a lot of problems. A lot of things it does worse, but a couple of things it does better. But it is beat for beat the same.
Up until it
isn't. Up until the ending, which I feel like they changed because they had to. And it kind of makes me think, why? Why did they not try? Because I wanted this to fall into the category of the new Slumber Party Massacre. Kind of be like a retelling of the story with like a modern twist and some new messaging, maybe be a bit of a look over the genre as a whole. No, there's a little bit of commentary in the new one about how the frat boy image is basically going extinct, but the only thing I can assume is because the first film, damn it, Pooch, neighbour's got a pooch who likes to bark. I don't know if that's going to be picked up, but maybe because the 1981, it is a cult classic. It's not everyone's favourite slasher movie of the 80s, and it gets looked over, like, forgotten about a lot. So maybe when they were making it, thinking, well, it's been so long, is it worth telling an entirely new story when our audience has most definitely not seen the original movie?
It's a good point, like exactly who is the audience for the 2022
also,
one especially.
I'm willing to give the new one a pass on a lot of things because it was it's a low budget film, made for Tubi, which is a free streaming service.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, this film was made for people scrolling through the streaming services for something to watch on Halloween.
Yeah.
That is the audience of this film who most likely, I think that the new one is much more enjoyable if you haven't seen the original film. Because then the mystery is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've seen the original one, you know exactly what's coming because there's certain scenes which are the same.
Yes.
Sometimes done a bit better, sometimes done a lot worse.
However, I know we'll come to it a bit more, but I absolutely agree with you. But in the 2022 one, there is a character that is absent.
Yeah.
That is in the original, that is not in the 2022 one. So it took me actually a while to cotton on when we were watching it. Do you know the character that I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
To think, well, it has to be different then because this character is not here.
Yeah, but then it's a thing of like, if they're assuming that no one's watched the original one who's watching this, why bother changing the ending?
Why bother changing it? Yeah.
I gotta say, we're not going to spoil the ending, the twist, because there is I think one of the biggest strengths of Terrortrain is there's a really good twist. Like, I'm not gonna lie, throughout all of the original movie, you know exactly who the killer's going to be. It doesn't try and hide
it doesn't, which
who
is
it is.
Interesting for a slasher I think. It's
Yeah.
not so much a whodunit, it's a where are they? What costume are they in?
Both films open the same. It's at a fraternity party set 3 years prior.
Yes.
Where they have some new pledges
Yeah.
who going for what do they call it? Hazing?
Hazing it's called, yeah.
Barbaric.
I've got something to say about hazing.
Yeah, so there's
this
they're pranking this young boy, Kenny.
Called Kenny, and Kenny is like, we don't really get to spend a lot of time with him at the beginning, but he's quite innocent, he's not a jock or anything like that, and he thinks he's going to be losing his virginity to this really gorgeous looking girl, i.e. Jamie Lee Curtis. Obviously the other film is kind of beat for beat, different actress, obviously.
We know, in the new one, the prank is coming. They don't hide it.
No, they actually tell us, like, as the audience, we know.
Yeah. Which I don't understand that, because in the original, the surprise of what the prank is pretty horrific.
It is pretty horrific.
And I'm going to do something. I'm going to compare when there's certain key scenes. I have to compare how they approach them.
Definitely, because there are some really interesting differences. I think in some ways 2022 does a few things better.
Yeah.
1980 does a few things better.
There's one character in particular, we'll get to him.
Yeah.
Who I think actually is much better in 2022 than he is in 1980.
I agree. I think I know the guy that you mean. But yeah, so basically this Kenny, both versions, he's duped into thinking that, oh God, there's a girl upstairs and, she's really into me. He goes upstairs, he starts taking his clothes off, he gets into bed with her, and it turns out it's a dead body, because they are all medical students as well. So Doc, who is kind of the de facto leader of the group.
At the time, he's the president of the fraternity.
He's president of the fraternity, and he's also kind of like the head of this friendship group especially. And he's rigged it so he's got this dead body, this rotting female corpse in bed with Kenny, and Kenny is just so traumatized by this that it just sends him into a kind of frenzy, and the poor guy ends up having a total mental breakdown over the prank.
Yeah, like as you would. And Jamie Lee Curtis feels horrible about it. She wasn't in on the dead body part. She thought it was just going to be someone else in bed with him.
She thought, she knew it was going to be a prank.
I think she thought it was going to be a guy.
Probably. She thought it was going to be a lot more innocent and less harmful than what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the end of Kenny, and then we're 3 years on, and she still feels horrible about it.
Well, hazing has essentially been outlawed at that point.
Yes.
And they're having that because they're all coming to the end of their term.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's the same in the original. Who plays Jamie Lee Curtis's character in the new one?
She is called. Just bear with me a sec. Just because my notes are kind of all over the place. I actually really liked her as well.
What's the name of the character? Is it Alana?
It's Alana,
yeah.
or sometimes called Elena. I think it just depends on the accent. But in the 22 version, she's called Robin Alomar.
I thought she was a standout in the 22. I thought she was really good.
She was a good final girl. I really liked her.
I feel like Jamie Lee Curtis. Well, she did this. She literally finished filming Prom Night, and then like a week later went straight onto this one.
I've got a list of like the Jamie Lee Curtis movies that she did.
Yeah, go on, give us the list.
Okay, so Jamie Lee Curtis, her first horror movie is Halloween, 1978. Then she goes on to do The Fog in 1980. She does Prom Night in 1980. She does Terror Train in 1980. 1981, she does Road Games. Followed by Halloween 2, and then she has a little cameo in Halloween 3.
Yeah.
But she did 3 films in the same year.
Anyone didn't know that she had a cameo in Halloween 3. She is the voice of the announcer voice.
Yeah, she is. Like, the curfew is now in...
Yeah, which once you realise, like, oh my god. So yeah, she had a busy couple of years.
She really, really did. Yeah, she was in full Scream Queen mode, I think, at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's really good, it's obviously set on a train.
Yes.
Both films do this amazing shot where you see like the shutter door opening, the train coming out, and then the smoke comes out, and the train. Again, just because of the quality of the film, I think the 2022 one, it looks amazing.
It did look stunning.
I'll put it up.
Like, it was a really nice shot.
It's a cool one in the 81, but just how it looks in this one is...
And the steam around
possibly
it
my favourite shot in the whole film.
Yeah, it was really well done.
In the original one, they actually filmed it on a train.
They did.
And they used a real train, they painted it black, changed the serial number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can get... This is the edge that I think that one has. You can tell they're filming on a train. They must have been moving it because a lot of them, like when they're talking, they're kind of like shaking. It's moving, so it feels like it's on a train, and that's a really unique thing. This film was pitched by the producers as they wanted Halloween on a train.
Halloween on a train.
Yeah. And I think they said lighting it was an absolute nightmare, but it leads to this really interesting claustrophobic feel. Really interesting lighting in certain bits.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas I think in the new one, there's some really weird CG training, but I can get a pass.
Oh yeah,
for the wide shots,
for the budget that
there was. But my issue is the carts. they're all done, you know, modern films often just like, this one's going to have green light and this one's going to have red lighting.
Yeah.
But they all kind of look the same, and
yeah,
I think you can tell it wasn't filmed on a train.
Yeah, it's even like in the original, you've got the camera that's like handheld and it's sort of shaky.
Oh, it could have even been on a tripod, just the train's moving.
Like the guy is just the DOP is just rocking away. But yeah, there's a stillness to the.
That's a very unique aesthetic.
Yeah.
That only terrortrain has.
Well, it kind of makes you feel like we're on the train with them as well.
Yeah.
You know, like we're in the party, we're in the crowd, like we're one of the guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, the whole theme of this is the killer. We know it's Kenny.
We know it's Kenny.
It's Kenny through the entirety, especially of the first one.
Kenny's come for his revenge.
But obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything. But there is a really interesting twist at the end of the first one, where somehow they managed to make the reveal surprising, even though you know who the killer is, and that is a massive strength to that film. Like.
Yes.
And it means on rewatch, it actually makes the second time watching more interesting when you know what the twist is, which is it's a rarity that usually when you know the twist, a film can just not become interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's really clever. The 2022 one has its own twist.
Still involves Kenny.
It still involves Kenny, but we clocked it.
Yes.
Probably about the midway point.
I think that's just, are we just so used to like the slasher formula now, or just, you know, like looking out for certain characters and traits maybe? But the average person might not get it.
But especially if you've not seen the original one, you might not be able to.
Yeah.
The whole thing is he kills someone on the platform, Ed, I think the character's name is, and takes his costume. And the whole theme of the film is he's going around, he's killing people responsible for what happened to him 3 years ago, and he takes their costume.
Yes.
So that's very much where it becomes the whodunit.
Whodunit.
And I gotta say, both films are kind of disappointing in that.
It's a really interesting concept.
It's an interesting concept, but we always know whose costume he's going to be in.
Yes.
There's a slight twist in the 2022 one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we always see him killing who he's killing, so we know what costume he's going to be in. I think we needed a couple more bodies so that he could be anybody, but when you instantly... You're just waiting for the characters to find out who he is.
Yeah.
But we as the audience know exactly what costume he's wearing, and neither incarnation really... did it properly.
I know what you're saying. I think really there's not a lot of costume changes either, because in the original, the first one he dons is a Groucho Marx costume, which looks really, really cool, by the way. I love the Groucho Marx one.
Yeah, I gotta say, I understand why they didn't go with that in the new one, because I have no idea who Groucho Marx is. I know the costume.
But
so a young audience in 2022 is going to have absolutely no idea who that is.
But it
looks cool. It looks really cool.
The mask is cool. And then he kills someone who's dressed as a crocodile or an alligator, a lizard, something like that.
Yeah, Jackson.
Jackson, the character, and he dons an alligator costume. And then
a witch.
Does he dress up as a witch though?
Yeah.
Does he? I can't remember that.
Yeah, it's the black cloak, the grey face. It's the whole final fight scenes in that costume.
Yeah, no, that's Doc's costume though as a monk.
It's
like the monk robe.
Oh, he puts the monk robes on, but he keeps the witches.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, so we get 3 costume changes.
Yeah, in the original one, in the new one even, it's a killer clown he dresses as. Which is it's a cool looking mask.
Yeah, it's just.
But it's a bit generic.
It's a scary clown. Okay.
Yeah, and by the end, when he's got the monk thing on, he just puts the clown mask back on.
Yeah.
So I'm not as big a fan of that, just because. But it makes sense for today. Killer clowns are much more of a popular costume than Groucho Marx.
No, I get it.
What's really interesting about both incarnations is there's a magician in it.
There is a magician on board who is, he's just on the train. He's going to perform some tricks for the frats and the sorority.
They didn't book a magician.
No.
It
is a bit bizarre.
It's literally because one of the producers wanted a magician, so they got David Copperfield in for the original one.
They did.
He is a bit of a highlight, to be honest. He's even credited for creating the illusions.
Yeah. He also doesn't have a name in the film.
He's
credited as the magician.
I can't remember the name of the actor in the new one, but he's in Schitt's Creek.
Hang on a second. I do have it somewhere. Tim Rosen?
Yeah. I think he had more to do than David Copperfield did.
See, I actually prefer Copperfield's performance. He can't act.
As a magician, but I think it's more believable that the magician could be a suspect.
Yeah.
If you don't know, obviously, what's going on.
Yeah. He is quite an interesting character. There's also a hint that he's attracted to Alana. In both
incarnations,
versions. Yeah, and there's a lot of friction. More so in the 2022 version, friction between the magician and Doc.
Yeah, because Alana's boyfriend, Mo, who in the original looks the spitting image of Sam Raimi.
He does actually.
He does.
Look a bit
He's dressed as a bird or something.
I think it's a bird. It's
Yeah.
meant to be.
Him
That is one of the
Him and Doc are
costumes.
essentially the head honchos of this fraternity, and there's a big party going on, but obviously they were all involved in the prank at the very beginning.
Doc was
Doc
the
is-
mastermind behind
I
it.
always find this really, really interesting in the original. There's definitely Doc in both incarnations. Doc is trying to split up Mo and Alana.
Yeah.
In the NNA one, do you get the impression that he's attracted to Mo?
In the first one, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's a line, he says something to Mo, he's like, hey, you know, if it doesn't work out with her, you'll
You-
always have me. But like,
It's that line after he's like, no, I mean it.
like, no, I mean it. I mean that. And it's just like the way he looks at him really intensely. Like even Mo's a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
like, okay.
Spoiler alert, Mo dies.
Mo does die
Is he just sat next to him and he's been like stabbed in the side and he just...
during the magician show.
The way Doc reacts in that moment, it is like he's lost a lover. Not
Well-
just his best friend, but his reaction is more tragic than Alana's.
In the original,
Yeah.
I totally agree. But I do think in the 2022 version, they do Mo's death a bit better.
Yeah, because he's not... In the original, he's just dead.
He's just already slumped
But
over.
he's
He's
dying.
been stabbed somewhere in the belly, I think. And
They kind of play into the whole thing, like, because they're all doctors.
yeah, they all
They
know
try
their
they
stuff.
try to save him, but it's too late. And the 2021 does do his death so
Well-
much better.
Yeah, it's not a stab to the belly; it's a throat slit.
Yeah, so he's
And-
choking on himself.
Him, so Doc and Alana. By the way, two characters
Who hate each other.
in both versions hate each other because remember, Alana can't forgive Doc for the hazing that went wrong, and she also just doesn't like him as a character. You know, she just does not like.
He's
the
not a
guy.
likable character.
He's not. He's a very kind of like, you know, macho, kind of like chauvinist guy, like doesn't treat girls well, whatever. But in this moment where...
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But when Mo
It's
is
the 80s. It
literally...
was the 80s.
It was the 80s, you know. But when Mo is literally dying, and I'm talking about the 2022 version here specifically, like the two of them, it's like a weird bonding moment where
They
Yeah.
both love this person.
they are in so much anguish over the watching, you know, their best friend and their lover die. And it is hard. It actually was quite hard to watch, and I really enjoyed Robin's Alamar. Is that her name? The actress that I said, Robin Alamar. Anyway, Alana's reaction to it, because when he actually stills, like when he actually dies, and she just kind of, I don't know, it's like the noise that she makes in her throat. It's like a scream that gets caught that she can't quite get
Yeah.
out. It's just, it was really, I just thought that was well done.
That was probably the best, one of the best scenes in that movie. Other
Yeah.
than, like the train coming out of the car.
Yeah,
That was. But what an interesting thing in both of them, I find, because Doc obviously trying to split them up, sends Mo off with another woman who is really into him, and then tells Alana where he is.
yeah, to go and catch them in the.
Yeah, but Mo
In the
doesn't want to
act.
do it. She's
No.
trying. I bet you made a note on like how being flirty is different between like the 2020s and the 1980s. But I
Yeah.
also want to say like the positions in both films where the woman is coming on to the man, he's like no, and she's like come on. If you flip that around, that becomes much more nefarious.
It's much more murky.
And he really did not want to be in that
Yeah.
situation.
Because in the original, it's a girl. I don't know what costume she's wearing, but she's wearing like these really high-waisted pants, and the belt is like around her
It's,
boobs.
to be honest, that is an
It's really-
ingenious costume.
Oh, I
It's-
like it.
I don't know what it's from.
I really, really like it. But yeah, she's got like the little overalls on and like just a pair of really high-waisted pants covering her boobs, and she takes it off and like boobies are out, and she's flirting with Mo, and she's like, come on. And he's seriously like, no, like I'm not interested, and he starts freaking out a little bit. But she's very kind of like flirty. She's like, oh, come on, like let's dance. Like she's being quite silly in the flirtation. But then fast forward to 2022, and it's more of like a very kind of serious seduction. Like she climbs on top of Mo,
Yeah.
and she takes off her top, and she's like very, very clearly like into him. There's less of a silliness, I think.
Yeah. But I feel like
it's
that's a
more
thing.
of like a no. Like
That's
I
a thing
know
in a
I want
lot
you.
of like modern day horrors. Like flirtations aren't silly anymore. They're
No.
very.
There's
They're
more
always
like
very
a-
like calculated.
There's a calculatedness to it. Yeah, and yeah, maybe a little bit more sort of nefarious, and maybe just like more overtly sexy, I think.
Yeah. I miss the silly.
I kind of miss the silly too. I mean, I noticed it.
Yeah.
I think because we watched the two of them so close together, but it was just kind of fresh in my mind. I was like, all right, these two scenes have been done very, very differently, and I think it's because of the time that both
Yeah.
of them were made.
I do want to say a character that I think has done far better in 2022 is Doc.
Is Doc, yeah.
Because in the first one, like, he's not a very likeable character, but he's also quite boring.
Yeah.
The 2022 one, it shows that he was actually punished for what happened.
Punish.
Is that okay? Yeah, it goes out Christmas. He's not the fraternity president anymore, and that's made very clear throughout. He's a character who likes to be in control, likes to be in power, and he's lost that.
He's lost.
He is not in charge of this party like he was in the first one. But also, like, it's kind of showing like how the frat boy days of, like, especially like say the American Pie days throughout the 2000s and going into the 2010s are kind of coming to an end. Like rich boys in power getting people to do what they want. It is kind of coming to an end. Like, people don't like that anymore. And that's very much shown in this film. Like, he's part of a dying breed.
Yes, definitely. That particular, like, brand of masculinity, maybe, in a way, or just, it's dying, thankfully.
Yeah. Whereas I'd say men a lot more like how the boys are on Slumber Party Massacre. 2022.
Yeah, there's more.
Not 2022, 2021.
2021, I think.
The last Slumber Party Massacre. I think that's a much more fun and realistic representation of what guys are like today.
It's also just, I think, generally more acceptable to be a nerd these days.
Yeah.
It's like where it was once really uncool, now there's just a general more acceptance of, like, whatever you're into, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I think it makes Doc a much more three-dimensional character.
Yes.
You can see he's someone who, everything's closing in on him. Like, people, they're sick of his pranks. They're just sick of him being a bell end.
Even his girlfriend, to an extent, is like...
Girlfriend is, like, absolutely just done with him. Mo is also pretty done with him as well. Like, it's the same in the first one, like, because he does, after what happens...
Yeah.
Him trying to break up Alana, it's like, he's, like, very serious, like... It's in the 2020s. You will lose the only friend you have.
He basically says, look, if you try and come between me and my girl, I'm choosing her over you. Like, he doesn't necessarily say it in those words, but that's very much, like, the inference there. Like, do not fuck with me and my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Very, very seriously. Yeah. He's an interesting character because he's such an unlikable character.
But I think just given that extra level of complexity,
definitely,
it just makes it more interesting. I do want to praise the 2022 one for
more relatable,
making that character, bringing that character into the 21st century, and just bringing them up to modern day.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think the 1980 version does his death better because it's more of like an extended sequence. But there is, in both versions, he does take Alana into a particular compartment on the train. In 2022 it's a VIP suite. In the 1981 it's just like one of the train bunks, I think. But he does it because he's trying to save her. He's like, if you and me just isolate ourselves, because the killer is clearly coming after us. Because at this point Jamie Lee Curtis has figured out it's Kenny, it has to be Kenny. But then in the 1981 he also pushes her out of the compartment eventually.
Yeah.
He actually just tries to save himself. Whereas in the 2022 one, I think he doesn't do that. She leaves of her own accord. But he actually wants her to stay. Like, he doesn't want her to die.
Yeah, I also think just thinking of bits that happen in the film, the train crew are much more characters
They're
in
involved
the original.
In the plot, in
like,
the original.
they're the ones that Carney, Ben Johnson, he discovers the first body.
Yes.
And they're very much involved in trying to keep these people safe. And we'll see, there's only like two members of the crew
in 2022.
In 2022, and we basically only see one of them, and
who were also gender swapped.
Yeah, gender swapped as well, and I don't just not having that much to do.
Not really having that much to do.
I think that's mainly to do with the way the plot goes, but I liked having the train crew be a part of the story in the first one.
Yeah, I think we have Carney, who is the Ben Johnson character. Yeah, who's replaced by a lady in the 2022 one. And Sadie, who is, I don't know what her job is necessarily, she's not the conductor, but she works under Carney, and she sort of becomes more of the Ben Johnson role.
Yeah.
She's the one that comforts Alana throughout it all. Like, she's more heavily present than Carney. But at the same time, like,
it doesn't do as much as what Carney does in the original film.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of changes.
She kind of loses control of the situation very quickly.
Oh, very, very quickly.
I liked in the original how involved they were in the investigation, trying to work out what's going on.
Well, a big difference too is in 1980 they do actually just stop the train and the characters get off.
Yeah.
Carney says, everybody off. and then they all sandwich them into one particular compartment, keeping an eye on them. Whereas in 2022, it feels like there's a bit of less control. Like that. Characters feel a bit more scattered around.
They always have to. What do you mean? There's no reception?
Yeah, I know.
Films have never quite worked out how to get around phones yet.
The mobile phone issue.
It's always bad reception. We're going to get to the point where bad reception is a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Every horror slash is just going to have like a phone jammer that blocks phone signals.
Yeah.
The kills.
Yes, the kills.
There's one kill in 2022 which I really like, just from filming wise. It's Jackson's the lizard costume kill.
Yeah, the bathroom.
Smashes him against the bathroom mirror. In the new one, it cracks the window and it's kind of like splits the image. And it looks. I know that's meant to represent the different incarnations the character's going to take.
Or to get to the end. The fragmented psyche of.
But other than that,
they're underwhelming.
I think there's not a choppiness.
Yeah, they do pack a punch.
Yeah, especially like I can't remember the friend character, the witch. What's her name?
Mitzi.
The way when she was getting stabbed, I was like, I'm not feeling. Docs especially.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think a big part it's the editing and it's the lighting as well, especially for Docs, because it's very much like the room's like kind of got a red hue to it. But that's it. There's no contrast. There's no interesting shadows. It's just very evenly lit, and it's a bit boring. And a lot of the kills just don't. Even the final confrontation between the killer and Alana, it really isn't interesting in the new one.
No, I totally agree. I think because even the very first kill that we see in the film, where Ed is stabbed on the platform, it's not like jarring necessarily. You just sort of see the guy stumbling out with a like a sword or whatever it is in his belly.
It's a sword.
Yeah, and in the 1981, actually, the body does get run over by the train when it leaves the platform, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Mitzi's death. So Mitzi is Alana's best friend. She's also Doc's girlfriend. In 1980, we know she's going to be killed, but the camera cuts away before we know what's going to happen, and then we end up finding her body. We realise she's had her throat slit. Whereas in 2022, we actually do see her die, and we see the stabs. But there's just, I think it is in the way that it's edited primarily. Yeah. It's like, it's not frenzied necessarily, but then the camera does it lingers on faces for a bit too long, so it just sort of feels, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's tension. But there should be in that kill.
Final, it's like one of the coolest moments in the final confrontation of the original one. Obviously, it's got Doc's monk robe on and the witch mask. Alana locks herself in the conductor's cage. Like the conductor's office is like a little cage thing.
Yeah.
And takes a broom and starts smashing the lights in the car. Again, playing with light really nicely. So she's then just engulfed in darkness apart from the small light in this room. And you can see it's horrifying for her. In the new one, it kind of does that, but it also doesn't affect the light in the room. It's more so just a reference. And just nothing about the final fight in that one was over much more quickly. It's very prolonged. Even one of the famous things is that the killer pulls her earring out. She's dressed as a pirate.
I can't watch it.
And
it's so horrible.
Nothing packs a punch.
No, it doesn't.
As much. And I'm not saying that the 2021 is a bad movie. It's not.
Oh, no, I
great.
wouldn't say that at all. No,
I just think if you've watched the original one, it takes a lot of the mystery away from it, just with being so carbon copy. But it's like, when you photocopy something, it's the same, but the quality is just a little bit worse.
A little bit worse.
That's kind of what it is.
I agree. I think that the fight scene between Alana and Kenny at the end, in the first film, is done so much better. It's a proper chase sequence, and she gives, a really good fight back. And I read in an interview with the actor that plays Kenny that
what was his name again?
Derek McKinnon.
I think he did a fantastic job.
I think he does a really good job. It's a shame we can't talk more about his character.
I know, but he's such an odd-looking guy.
He is a very strange-looking guy.
I really like his movement in all the costumes.
I do too, and also, unusually for a film, if you have a killer in disguise, usually it's a stuntman because it involves a lot of chase sequences or fight sequences. In this movie, actually, the actor was in all of the costumes at all times.
Yeah, they wanted to feel like it was the same person.
Yes, and obviously I know we're not going to go into spoilers, but I mean, Derek McKinnon was not an actor, or at least he was not a film actor. He did not have that level of experience. He was hired. He did audition, but he was also hired for a particular reason, which is connected to the story. So he was not used to a lot of like filming procedures or policies.
Maybe in the future we should do a video on great horror twists where we could talk about
I would really like to, because it's so interesting.
If we don't, because if we spoil one of these movies, we spoil both of them, and the new one is very new.
Yeah. But he was saying in this interview that final chase between him and Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, they were really kind of going for each other. Like when she slung against walls, like that's really Jamie Lee. And he said, sometimes, we would miss like hits and we would actually, accidentally get each other. So they were really going for it.
I think you can tell as well, because it feels very gritty and raw.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it's a fantastic fight. She actually spends more time. I think she puts up a better fight against Kenny than she does against Michael Myers.
I think she does too. Yeah, I think she does. And the revelation at the end is, I love it.
It's satisfying.
It is very, very satisfying.
It's really good. So, do you have any more notes on this one?
I just wanted to say a few things on Hazing, because I got a few interesting stats.
You fell down a rabbit hole, didn't you?
I did, and I saw a few images which I really wish that I hadn't. But at least one university, there has been at least one university hazing related death a year from 1969 up until 2020. Now, probably not including 2020, just because pandemic. But there were 40 deaths from another source from 2007 to 2017 alone. Now, obviously, in this movie, Kenny doesn't die. He's just severely traumatized by the hazing incident. But it ultimately does lead to deaths. Subsequently, the trauma of what he went through leads to him going on a killing spree. And hazing continues to be a big issue today. It's still, unfortunately, a thing.
Yeah.
Very much so. So, we mentioned it, I think, when we were doing the Black Christmas video, that, I've definitely noticed that sorority houses and frat houses, they tend to pop up in horror quite frequently. Like, they're a good kind of, like, backdrop. Yeah,
they're a good backdrop, and it's a good excuse for it to be set mostly within the house.
Within the house, yeah. I mean, obviously we get that great sequence in Scream 2 as well. Like, all of the Black Christmases involve frats, sororities in some way. We got Sorority House Massacre, I think you mentioned it.
Which we've never seen, but maybe I might dive
aware of, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to just kind of drop a few facts in about that. Hazing is unfortunately still very much a big issue in America.
And if it doesn't stop, you could create your own Kenny.
Literally, I think that is the moral of the story. It's like there's always a Kenny in waiting. There's always that one prank that's going to go way too far.
It's always like there's consequences.
There's consequences. Interestingly, the main cause of death of hazing is alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just going far beyond their limit, or being forced to drink beyond their limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, on that cheery note.
They're both fun little films.
They really are.
Like I said, the certain parts of the 2022 one does do certain scenes better.
Yeah.
Overall, I prefer the 1981. I think it's just a more tightly cut together film. It's not perfect by any means. I'd say both of them are wasted opportunities in regards to the costume changes.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, I understand why they just did a beat for beat remake, since not a lot of people know about Terrortrain.
I also just wanted to say as well that in the 2022 one, the director was a guy called Philippe Gagnon. I think he might be French or Canadian, Quebec French. And the writers were Ian Carpenter and Aaron Martin. Now, I haven't heard of this, but apparently they were the team behind Slasher, which was a TV series, which
I've heard of that.
Very well regarded. So there was a little bit of hype for the Terrortrain.
Yeah. Who was the director of the original film?
I will tell you now. Roger Spottiswood.
Roger Spottiswood.
Or Spottiswood.
What a great name, Spottiswood.
Yes.
So I know this was because Universal got the distribution rights to the original film, and that was the very first horror film they distributed.
Interesting.
And they gave it so it had a very small budget, didn't it?
Budget was $3.5 million.
That's actually a pretty big budget.
And box office was $8 million.
Yeah. but I don't think it actually made money because I know Universal, they put a big marketing campaign behind it, and the marketing campaign alone was $5 million.
Yeah.
So I think they actually made a loss on it.
Yeah.
But it's another one that did pretty well in like home video.
Home video. I mean, I think the first
They were looking for a franchise.
Yeah.
Like Halloween.
I first heard of this when I watched the Dead Meat kill count on it. I hadn't. I used to watch a lot of the kill counts before I'd seen the film, which is I know what not. It's not what you're meant to do. But that was the first time I heard of it.
I'd heard of it. I heard of it on the In Search of Darkness documentary.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people were talking about it, and because we watched it earlier this year, didn't we? I think sometimes we'll watch films months before we even record them, just to see if we want to, and then rewatch them the week off. So that's how I ended up watching Alligator 3 times in this year.
And as we say, yes, that's how that.
I watched it myself. I made you watch it. Then we watched it for the video.
Yeah, and then we got a little prop alligator
behind the camera. He's a camera.
Carl. There's not that many New Year's Eve horror movies, as you say. So I mean, if
can someone get on and make some, because we'll run out in like 3 years.
I also just realised as well. Sorry, I know we're wrapping, but the 3 horror movies, or some of the horror movies that Jamie did, they're all themed, like Halloween, obviously prom night, terrortrain. It's New Year's Eve. It's like
Halloween brought on the seasonal slasher.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely did, and yeah, we've got so many more of them we need to
We've
deep
only
dive
got
into.
a couple more.
We could probably get most of them done next year.
Yeah, I know.
And there's one I've really been watching. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I've been really interested about watching that one, so maybe we could do that one next year.
Yeah, not a lot of Easter themed horror movies, I don't think.
No, there's no bonfire night ones.
There's absolutely not. No.
And we've got New Year's Evil. Is that?
There's New Year's Evil. There's Bloody New Year, I think too, and they're the only ones I can.
All right, so we got 3 years worth of New Year's Eve ones.
Yeah. After that, God knows what we'll do.
Cool. So yeah, check it out. We don't have Tubi over in the States, so I just had to find it online by means. But it's a free to watch film if you want to watch the new one.
And it is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, especially if you haven't seen the original, if you want to be really surprised. But if you do just want to look into the original terrortrain, it's on Shudder.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's always on Shudder. I've never seen it not on there.
Yeah, always
and
there.
it's an interesting ride. Not a perfect movie, but it's got a decent cast.
Yeah.
Some of the action's a bit blur, but
I think that's part of the charm.
Yeah, and a really cool twist.
Yeah.
Something to watch on New Year's Eve if you're not going out.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys, and we'll see you next year. Which is weird for us because we filmed this in November.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next.
We'll see you fairly soon.
We'll see you next year. Bye.